Hello, thank you for joining us. This is Eric. I'm here with my babe Tiffany, and I guess my babe Steve, and my other babe Lloyd. And we're, of course, just got played, and we're going to talk about the plays of the month for the month of March 2022. So, Steven, why don't you kick us off? What was your top play of March 2022?
Wow. So my top play is, I don't normally do this, but this is a game that you probably can't play. So I got a pre-production copy of Pilgrim from the publisher. And the game found actually has already concluded the campaign they were running, and the game isn't coming till October. But if you really want, you can play it on Tabletopia. So I guess you can't actually play the game. It's what is the theme of the game? You're like a 14th century abbot or abbess, and you've got these acolytes that are going out trying to build a point salad, essentially. I think I just put Lloyd to sleep, actually, with that description. But there is perfect information, no luck. This is point salad Euro, medium to heavyweight. I would say more medium. I think the description was medium to heavyweight, but it intrigued me because it has tile laying, and it has this Mancala mechanism. And I thought it sounded like an interesting combination of them. And the funny thing is that normally I like tile laying games, but not really the 18xx style of like laying track or whatever. And that's really the kind of tile laying is here. And normally I'm not super psyched about Mancala style games, but this has a Mancala system where you pick up your workers and drop them around the board. And I really liked the Mancala system in this. So like I went into the game thinking I was going to like it for one reason, and I came out liking it for sort of the opposite reason. But yeah, you've got you've got your workers, and you're deciding how you're going to move them around the board in Mancala style. And if you have majorities in a certain place, you can do like the stronger version of an action. If you're behind, you can still do the action, but you have to pay. If you're tied in an area, you can just do the normal action. And you're trying to get, like I said, point salad, right? So if you build these routes, these pilgrimage trails, you get points. If you connect to these different areas and you're the first one to make a length of a path, you get points from the cardinal. You give alms and you get points for that. You get piety and you get points for that. So yeah, basically, anything you do, you can get points, but there's definitely going around collecting resources, which if you don't spend are worth points at the end of the game, yeah, it's not my normal type of game. It's a little heavier than the normal type of game that I would play. But I played it, pre-production copy. There were some rough edges around the rules we needed clarification on, but I'm sure the production version will be have all that ironed out. And it's a fun game.
How does the title fit in? What does Pilgrim mean?
Well, you're building these pilgrimage trails. That's one way to score points, right? So you build, you're trying to build trails from this sort of city center out towards these pilgrimage sites on the edge, and you can build shrines along the way, also to sort of separate out the paths and score more points that way. But every time you build one of those, you take one of your workers out of circulation, so that sort of nerfs you a little bit. You can get more workers to put into circulation. But so it's got some interesting mechanisms like that. Again, the theme does not really grab me. But I mean, it is there, and it didn't get in the way either, which is good. But like I said, it's on Tabletopia. Go check it out.
It kind of ironically sounds like building the paths is very similar to building the railroads.
Yeah, I mean, it even says right there it's inspired by 18xx, right? So yeah.
Gotcha. I understand what you mean. I'm not a huge fan of the 18xx games. It's so brutal, as it were. Like, it's one of those things where if you make a mistake early, you're done. Good luck for the next 4 hours while everybody else competes, kind of a thing. So how long was this game?
I don't remember. It maybe took us 2.5 hours to play, but 3 of the 4 of us were new to the game, or maybe 2 of the 4 of us were new to the game. So, and then, like I said, there were a few things we had to sort of think about because the rules were questionable which way, they should be interpreted because, like I said, pre-production, right? So I think, probably a 2-hour game for 4 people would be normal for this if I had to guess.
This is straight to straight to friendly local game store game, right? No Kickstarter.
No, they just finished. They just concluded the GameFound
Oh,
campaign.
okay.
So yeah, and it is. I don't even know if it's coming to retail distribution in the United States. It's being published by the guy who makes the game, and also I think Spielworks has a hand in it as well. So
I'm just curious. I think somehow we missed this one, so that's interesting. I'd like to play it sometime.
Well, the funny thing is, if you were on the GameFound campaign, shipping was expensive because it's actually going to ship from Europe. But if you got 2 copies, the shipping was the same price. So how could I not have ordered 2 copies?
Yes, of course. Dave knows all about saving money, don't you think?
I can't afford not to.
Right. No, with that kind of situation.
Right. Saving money. Buy 2 games.
Exactly.
The shipping's the same, so you actually save money.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So that sounds fun. Lloyd, what do you have for us today?
So the Lloyd played Black Orchestra finally. I've been wanting to play that one for a while. So Black Orchestra is basically the Tom Cruise movie, which is based on the Project Valkyrie, the plot to kill Hitler. And in the game, you're basically playing a bunch of spies, for lack of a better term. They're basically all kinds of people kind of in Hitler's inner circle. So he has like generals and civilians, and there's like 3 classes in the game. I forgot what they all are, but there's basically soldiers, civilians, and maybe scientists. But they all basically have their own kind of little plot that they actually did. A lot of it's based on true events where these people did try to assassinate Hitler and ultimately failed. And the funny part is you choose a real character from a real person. And while it's, reading, they have like a little story on their card that tells you about their plot. And after I finished reading mine, I was like, well, guys, my guy died. He's dead. Like, he got killed. And they're like, yeah, mine too. Some of them were like, basically they pulled off their plots, got found out, and then immediately executed. So the game is basically, it's a co-op. You are, like I said, you're working against Hitler and all of his generals. And there's a bunch of city spaces on the board. And Berlin is one city space, but it has multiple spaces in it. And you're moving around trying to find plots and the bits and pieces of the plots you need. So you'll need like dossiers and explosives and weapons. And you are trying to assemble this mechanism with all these little pieces to get in the right spot at the right time to try and pull off a assassination attempt on Hitler. And it's very, very, very hard. Like it's not a friendly co-op. Like it's very brutal. We got down to the very last, almost the last turn of the game. It takes place over basically not 7 rounds, but 7 stages. And in the beginning, Hitler's power kind of grows, and then as the game goes on, it kind of wanes. So you can either, like, if you're really good and everything works in your favor right at the beginning of the game, you might have a chance to get it, but it's typically not going to happen until the end of the game. But by the end of the game, your suspicion's so high that you're basically getting just constantly locked up and put into jail, and trying to avoid getting found out and basically killed. So I wore this shirt because this kind of looks like the guy that I was playing as. His name was Klaus van Staffenberg, and he's kind of this one-eyed guy. And, everybody has their own little special action that they get to do as they get a little bit more bolder. So as the game goes on, you're going to get, I don't want to say level up, but you're going to get more motivation. And in order to pull off your assassination attempt, you need to be at a very high motivation level. And a low suspicion level. So everything's kind of working at odds. To get your motivation up, you got to do things that's going to also drive up your suspicion, but you need to work your suspicion down and keep your motivation high. And the assassination plots are like very dependent on different people. So one will require that you need a soldier. Another one will require that you have to be a civilian. And then it all comes down to die rolls, right? So the power of Hitler is represented by how many misses you can afford to get. So like if his power is at 7, that means you need to get 7 hits in order for it to kill him. But in order to get those hits, you have to assemble all these different things to get bonus dice to be able to roll. And there's essentially only 2 hits on every die face. Anything else you roll is bad. So it's very, very brutal. It's probably one of the hardest co-ops I've played. Like it does not pull any punches. Every decision is very, very, there's no good decisions. You're always trying to choose the best of the worst. There's rarely anything that's just like, oh, here's something good to happen to you. It's kind of like at the end of each round of Battlestar Galactica, and the admiral has to pull that card, and it's, jump 2 spaces but get attacked by 80 Cylons, or jump 3 spaces and get attacked by 18 billion Cylons. Like there's no good choice. It's both terrible. This game kind of does the same thing. You'll get an event card that's going to give you some option, and it's usually bad, and you're trying to choose the least horrible option, but it's completely co-op. There is no traitor. So everyone's on the same team. And that's basically Black Orchestra.
I like hard co-ops. I think, maybe 15-20% win rate or something like that is probably a good sweet spot for co-ops, right? Because if you're winning all the time, then I guess you can have fun with it, but it's not sort of challenging. And of course,
not as fun.
Yeah, right. And if you lose all the time, then that's not as fun either, right? But yeah, so yeah, things like Robinson Crusoe or whatever, where you just you get your butt handed to you most of the time. But I like your timely play of a game where you're trying to assassinate a violent megalomaniac. Just saying, just throwing that out there.
How weird. It was definitely interesting. I've been wanting to play it for a long time. The last time I got a chance to almost play it was the last Dice Tower I went to, and we pulled it out at like 11:30, and we're just like, we're not reading the directions for this. Put it back on the shelf, and we played some simple game because that just wasn't happening. So I've been wanting to play it for 3 years. So
yeah, I hear that. I've been wanting to play this for a while too. It gets really good reviews, and the people that like it love it. So that's always a good sign for me. I mean, you never know if you're one of those people or not until you try it, but that's the whole point, right? Try it and see if you like it or not. I know, Babe, you love the beat your head up against the wall, hard co-op game. So it just always seemed a little dark to me. I mean, I get it. Everything's a game, and there's killing orcs and stuff and all kinds of different games, but actually assassinating Hitler just seems a little dark to me. But again, I always wanted to try it. What do you think, Babe?
Well, I feel like assassinating Hitler is certainly not as dark as some other directions you could go with assassinations. So I'm all right with it.
Okay, and there you have it. Well, why don't you tell us what your game is, Babe?
Yes, that's probably a better question. So this time I picked a game that it was not new to me, but it was the best game that I've played over the past month or so, and that game was Ra. Ra is a auction game. It's a press your luck auction game where I'm not really big on press your luck. Well, that's an argument for a different day, I guess. But I don't really like auctioning either. But anyways, it's a game where you are trying to collect sets of tiles, and you get the tiles through bidding and auctions. But the interesting thing, or the thing that makes it a little unique, is that the tile that you bid with, it's a number 1 through 16. And when you bid, one of the things that you're bidding on is the next tile for bidding that you're going to be able to use, or one of the tiles in the set of 3 tiles that you're going to be able to use. So I might have 16, which is the highest and most valuable chip, and there might be a group of tiles that come out that will perfectly complete a couple of sets of mine, and I really want to get it. And this one was going to power all of these others so that they'll actually score points for me. So I really need this one, but the middle bidding chip is a 2. So you have to take that into consideration when you're deciding, is this something that you want to bid on and potentially win and lose your most valuable chip that you've collected, and then it's going to go into the pile for the next person to bid on, and they're gonna maybe turn their 3 into a 16 because you decided to trade your 16 in. So it's just really interesting. It's got a lot of different pieces that work together, which is fun, but it's not super heavy. It's not super complex. It's certainly a lighter game than what I would typically or traditionally play. But it's really good. And I think most of you guys seem like you've at least played it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Steve and I have both talked about this game as one of our favorites at some point, or a play of the month or something. I'm with you, babe. I love this game. It's definitely in my top tier of games. I think that switching out the numbering is awesome. And even in the game we just played, there was a couple of times where there were no tiles at all, but like the 15 chip is sitting up there and somebody's going to bid on it. You don't get any tiles, but at least you got bidding power in the next round.
That's great when you have a number like the 2. Like, just call it early when there's hardly anything out there. There's a high bidding chip, and just be like, fine, outbid me if you want. I don't care. You're going to give up one of your chips, but I'm going to get something for this 2, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, stellar game. Absolutely.
And we are going to review this later in the year when the new version of ROG delivers. I mean, they haven't even launched the Kickstarter yet. Oh, GameFound. It's coming to GameFound. They haven't even launched the new one yet. But when it does deliver, cross my fingers, later this year, we're going to review that.
Nice.
Awesome.
It's right over your shoulder, too, babe.
Oh,
wait, this shoulder?
The other one.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I see it.
I see it. It's right here.
Right there. Yeah, exactly.
Found it. Don't ask me how the name ties in like you did for Steven, because I don't.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's Knizia. It's an Egyptian.
Ra's an Egyptian god.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying it very much like it doesn't have anything to do with it. You could have called it.
Oh, come on,
fish,
it's got monuments. It's got the
fish.
Nile. There's the flooding of the Nile. Like, it's got the Egyptian theme in there. You could put anything you want on this game, but they did try to work the theme in, right?
I mean, yeah, I hear you. It is Egyptian, but there's nothing in the actual gameplay that's like. I agree. It's just it's there. So.
And then you invoke Ra to do.
You do invoke Ra,
the
yes,
bid.
to do the auction. Yes, I invoke Ra. Right. I think the statue should be bigger. It's like this big, but it should be like this big. You know, like I invoke Ra.
Yeah, like
every box should come with a real Egyptian god in it.
Yes.
Yes.
Now you're talking. Yes.
Stretch
That's
goal.
gonna be the
Stretch
Kickstarter.
goal.
Yeah.
That's the GameFound thing, right? Yeah. I love it.
Excellent. Well, speaking of ridiculously priced Kickstarters, I'm actually going to talk about Return to Dark Tower. So this is. I'll try to keep the story short because it's not really much of a story. It's just kind of my memories. But my buddy Mark and we actually used to play this on his dad's copy. And I don't mean like when we were 10 years old. I mean like when we were 30 years old, we'd go to his basement and play some Dark Tower. And it was awesome. You know, it was so like back in the 80s and you bring it back and it still worked and everything was awesome. So we were all kind of like just super hyped about this when, you know, Rob Davio and Restoration Games announced it. So we haven't actually got ours yet. Ours is we ordered it through our FLGS, and of course they got bumped to the back of the line, so we don't actually have ours yet. But my buddy Mark, he got his. So we played that the other night. It's really impressive. I think a lot of it is show, but I'm okay with that. It's definitely, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, it's overproduced. I don't know if it's like the most overproduced game because it all works really well together. You know, for those of you who are unfamiliar, basically the 80s version had this electronic tower in the middle of the game. and you would interact with the tower. Like you'd have a battle and you'd push a button on the tower and the tower would tell you how well you did or how many warriors you lost or whatever. So they kept it in spirit.
Yeah, that was a big deal in the day, the tower.
Yeah, back in the day, absolutely. Like that and Stop Thief with the little like, little handheld, like all these. I was absolutely in love with this when I was a kid. Like we're talking about 84 and I'm 10 years old and these things were fantastic. So there is a bit of nostalgia in there, but I think anybody that's going to play this or be exposed to it is just going to be kind of wowed by the whole thing. I was saying, I don't remember if I was saying to Tiff or not, but there for a while it was like Dwellings of Eldervale. That was the game. Like if you want to like throw a game out and impress everybody, you throw out Dwellings. Yeah, I think it's going to be Dark Tower. It's just really impressive. The tower is huge in the middle of the table. It doesn't actually do the stuff like it did in the old version. That's now handled by an app. But what's really cool is the app and the tower talk to each other. So like things that happen here, and then the tower does something and spins and spits out skulls and stuff. It's really, really cool.
And if you have a big TV near your game table, you can cast the app onto the TV.
Absolutely, yes. There's definitely a sense of mystery to the whole thing. And what I mean is, because it's an app-driven game, there's a lot of it that happens in the app. And they don't really tell you, like, what's going to happen when certain things happen. So you just kind of blindly go in and find out once you do this, just saying. So we played this game. We played too long because it was our first play, all four of us. We're all trying to figure out what's going on and learn. It was way too long. So we get to the end of the game. Well, what was end of the game because it ended. But, I'm like, I don't know, I'll go fight the dragon. So I go over and fight this dragon, and he basically just destroys me. I'm down to like one leg I'm standing on, and then the next event comes out and kills us all. Kills me, which killed us all. But we were like, all right, that's all right. Let's just keep playing like that didn't happen. Let's see what would happen. So Mark goes next, and he was getting ready to go into a dungeon. He goes into the dungeon, gets absolutely destroyed, died, would have killed us all. We're like, all right, never mind. Let's just keep going. So we get around to Josh, who we intentionally loaded up all this stuff to beat the main boss. And then he gets into the main boss fight, and he's doing pretty good. Long story short, some things happened in there that we really couldn't control, destroyed us, and we lost the game. So, but we didn't know what was going to happen when any of us walked into these battles or anything, because it's not like a regular game where you look in the book and say, well, if I have this is what's going to happen, and this is what I'm facing. You don't know. You're pushing buttons on an app, and you're going to see what happens as it comes out. So I think this game rewards a lot of extra plays. I think it really works well that way too, because there's a whole like set of all the different monster levels. So every time that you play, you can say, no, this time we'll play with this boss and this low level monster and this medium level monster and this high level monster. And they're all going to do different things. And, so you really have to just get in there and find out what they're going to do in order to kind of have an idea of what's actually going to happen. So I really enjoyed this play. I'm looking forward to more of them because, the first one's a little rough and we had to do the same thing, like 4 new players. It's like, I don't know, what does that mean? And we have to spend 10 minutes, look up a rule just to realize that meant what it said it meant, kind of a thing, but I think repeated plays are going to be really good with this. The wow factor is just through the roof. I don't think it's the best game I've ever played. The game itself is fairly simple. There is there is a versus mode, but it's mostly a cooperative game. So you're working together to clear the lands of the dangers and beat the final baddie. And I think it's enjoyable. There's a lot going on. It's very diverse, and it's just super, super awesome. When you get one of these set up on the table and the app and the tower going off, it's just something to behold, really. It's like, like I said, if you get this, it's going to be your centerpiece for, you want to see a board game? I'll show you a board game, kind of a thing.
The competitive mode is a real throwback to the 80s version, too, because the 80s version was competitive, not cooperative at all. So, yeah, I'm for a nostalgia factor, I'm looking forward to checking that out. Also, you mentioned Rob Davio when you were talking about the game in the beginning, but don't sleep on this also is Isaac Childress, right?
Yeah, that's true. And of course, anybody that watches us at all knows that's like my number one game.
Yeah.
It's in Tiff's top 5. Like, we're huge Isaac Childress and Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, upcoming Frosthaven. Like, we're so stoked for the upcoming Frosthaven. So yeah, I mean, Davio's been great. I'm a huge fan of the things that he's done. He's pioneered the whole legacy genre, really. And and Isaac Childress. I mean, how awesome. Really.
So if Tiffany played with you when you played that game, right? No,
she did not.
You didn't play
she
it.
was out of town on business.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I thought you heard it here first. Raw is better than Dark Tower, but I guess we don't know for sure.
Can't say for sure yet.
Well, I think Raw is probably a better game, but Dark Tower is such an experience. It's more than a game. That's a whole experience going on. Really.
Fun Knizia fact. Anybody want to hear a fun Knizia fact, by the way?
Of course.
At this moment in time when we're recording this video, there is not a Knizia game in the top 100 of Board Game Geek for like the first time in forever.
Wow. That's interesting.
Goodness.
What's the highest one? Raw?
His highest ranked
Tigris,
game?
Probably.
Yeah, I think it's Tigris and Euphrates just dropped out of the top 100, yeah.
Wow. I love that game too. But that game's super weird in the head, Tigris and Euphrates. Have you played?
That game, I could not play it well until I played the app. So I played the board game and got my butt handed to me a few times, and then I played the app and figured it out and was like, oh, now I can play this. And then I played it some, and then I was kind of like, well, I get the experience, and so I traded it, I think, so. I
understand. You really have to have a group of people that knows how to play that game to really have fun playing that game. That it's so hard on the head. It's just one little thing changes everything. And what I mean is, in that game, you're a symbol, not a color. And that is so hard for some reason to wrap your head around, because you have your symbol might be the ram, and you have 4 things, and one of them's blue, red, green, and whatever the other color is that are in your ram symbol. So all these primary colors are out on the board all the time. So I'm always thinking I'm the blue ones. I'm not the blue ones. I'm the base. I have red and blue and green and yellow or whatever, but I'm the base. And that just takes a little while to kind of wrap your head around a lot of the time. So I don't know. That was my stumbling block to it anyway.
Well, I feel like this was my fault, but I think this is the 3rd month in a row that E-Rock has talked about more than one game during his best play of the month.
Yeah.
Well, we all have faults. Nobody's perfect. That's okay, because next time we're going to have live bears. This is Eric talking here with Lloyd, the Stephen, and my babe, Tiffany. We are with Just Got Played. We want to thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a comment or hit the like button. It really does help us out. If you have suggestions for future videos, let us know in the comments as well, and then subscribe to see what we come up with next.